I never believed those near-death experience stories until I died at 6, and Jesus showed me the exact same divine realm that Edgar Cayce spent his lifetime accessing. My name is Sarah, and what happened to me has been medically documented. At just 6 years old, I experienced clinical death for 4 minutes and encountered the exact same divine dimension that renowned psychic Edgar Cayce accessed throughout his entire career. In the next 15 minutes, I'll reveal the 3 shocking spiritual secrets that mystics spend lifetimes seeking, the universal truth about divine love that churches hide, why death is actually a doorway to infinite consciousness, and how you can access this same divine realm without dying. I've never shared the complete truth about what I witnessed in that sacred space until now. But before I share what Jesus revealed to me in that sacred space, truths that will shatter everything you believe about life and death, let me take you back to where this extraordinary journey began. And then I realized that this story isn't just mine, it belongs to everyone who's ever wondered what lies beyond the veil of death. Looking back, my childhood was perfectly ordinary. I was just like any other 6-year-old, playing with dolls, watching cartoons, and believing that grown-ups had all the answers. My parents were loving but not particularly religious. We went to church occasionally, more out of tradition than deep faith. I had no concept of spirituality, near-death experiences, or anything beyond the tangible world I could see and touch. I spent my days building blanket forts in the living room, chasing butterflies in our backyard, and asking endless questions about everything from why the sky was blue to where babies came from. My biggest worries were whether I'd get to stay up late on weekends and if there would be chocolate chip cookies after dinner. Death wasn't even in my vocabulary, let alone something I could comprehend. My grandmother would sometimes tell me stories about angels watching over me, but they felt like fairy tales. Beautiful, comforting stories that belonged in the same category as Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. I had no framework for understanding anything beyond the physical world, no spiritual awareness whatsoever. I was pure innocence, living completely in the present moment, the way children do naturally. But sometimes the most ordinary days become the doorway to extraordinary experiences. Little did I know that my peaceful, innocent world was about to be shattered in a way that would reveal truths beyond imagination. Suddenly everything changed on what started as just another typical Tuesday morning. I remember waking up feeling strange, different somehow. My chest felt tight, and breathing seemed harder than usual. My mother noticed immediately, the way mothers do, and her worried expression scared me more than the physical discomfort. The next few hours became a blur of frantic activity. My parents rushed me to the hospital, their voices tight with panic they were trying to hide from me. The doctors and nurses moved with urgent efficiency, their faces serious as they attached monitors and IV lines to my small body. I remember the beeping sounds, the bright hospital lights, and the overwhelming smell of antiseptic. You know that feeling when time seems to stretch and compress at the same time? When every second feels like an eternity, but somehow everything is happening too fast to process? That's exactly what those hours felt like. What none of us knew was that my heart was failing. But what happened next? What I experienced in those moments between life and death. This is where my story gets unbelievable. The medical emergency escalated rapidly, and despite the medical team's best efforts, my vital signs began to flatline. In that moment, as chaos erupted around my hospital bed, I experienced something that would forever change not just my understanding of life and death, but my entire existence. The sensation began as a gentle floating feeling, like being lifted by invisible hands. One moment I was aware of the pain and difficulty breathing, and the next I felt completely free from my physical body. I found myself hovering near the ceiling, watching the medical team work frantically on what I somehow understood was my own body lying on the bed below. I could see everything with crystal clarity, the doctors performing CPR, my parents crying in the corner, the machines showing flat lines. But instead of being frightened, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace and curiosity. Colors seemed more vivid than anything I'd ever experienced. and I could hear and understand conversations happening throughout the hospital, even in distant rooms. Then I saw it, a tunnel of the most beautiful light I had ever witnessed. This wasn't just brightness, it was alive, warm, and filled with love so pure it made everything else fade in comparison. The light called to me without words, and I felt myself moving toward it with a joy I had never known existed. As I travelled through this tunnel, I felt layers of earthly concern and fear simply dissolving away. The love surrounding me was unlike anything in human experience. It was unconditional, all-encompassing, and more real than any emotion I had ever felt. This light wasn't just illumination, it was the very essence of divine love made visible, and I was completely enveloped in its embrace. At the end of the tunnel, I encountered a presence that I instinctively knew was Jesus. But this wasn't the Jesus from storybooks or church paintings. This was a being of pure love and light, radiating warmth and wisdom that seemed to contain all knowledge and understanding in existence. His presence was so overwhelming yet comforting that I felt like I was finally home after a long journey. He spoke to me without words, communicating directly through love and understanding that transcended language. His message filled my entire being. I was loved beyond measure. I was part of something infinitely beautiful, and everything was exactly as it should be. In his presence, every question I had ever had about life, love, and existence was answered without even being asked. But here's what's really incredible. What I saw next would connect me to a truth that mystics throughout history have tried to share. As this overwhelming experience continued, Jesus began showing me something that would take me decades to fully understand, that I wasn't the first person to access this divine realm while still in physical form. This radiant being of love showed me visions that my 6-year-old mind could barely comprehend, yet somehow I understood completely. He revealed glimpses of other souls who had accessed this same divine realm, including a man whose work I wouldn't discover until decades later, Edgar Cayce. But here's where it gets incredible, and I mean the kind of incredible that gives you chills when you realize the connection. Have you ever wondered why certain people throughout history seem to access the same divine truths? Jesus showed me something that would blow your mind. Jesus showed me how Edgar Cayce, throughout his lifetime, had accessed this exact same divine dimension during his readings. The same realm of pure love and infinite knowledge that I was experiencing as a child was where Cayce received his remarkable insights about healing, spirituality, and the nature of human existence. This made me understand that what I was witnessing wasn't unique to me. It was accessible to anyone who opened their heart to divine truth. I saw how Cayce, like me, had been chosen to be a messenger of divine love and healing. The visions revealed that we were both bridges between the earthly plane and this realm of infinite wisdom, tasked with bringing back truths that could help humanity understand their true nature as spiritual beings. The connection was profound and undeniable. We had both been given access to the same universal database of divine knowledge. You know that feeling when you meet someone and instantly know you've known them forever. That's exactly what I felt when I learned about Edgar Cayce decades later. It was like finding a spiritual twin, someone who had visited the exact same divine library I had accessed as a child. In that sacred space, Jesus revealed that love is the only force that truly matters in existence. Not the conditional love we experience on earth, but the pure, unconditional love that connects every soul in the universe. He showed me that we are all part of one infinite consciousness, connected by threads of light that can never be broken, no matter how separated we might feel in physical form. The barriers between individuals, between different religions, between earth and heaven, these were all illusions. In reality, we are all one, all part of the same divine source, all destined to return to this realm of pure love. Every act of kindness, every moment of compassion, every choice made from love strengthens these connections and brings us closer to our true spiritual home. My 6-year-old mind struggled to process these cosmic truths, yet somehow my soul understood perfectly. It was like being given a university education while still learning to read. Overwhelming yet completely natural. The wonder and confusion I felt were exactly what a child would experience when shown the deepest mysteries of existence. I remember feeling both amazed and bewildered, trying to fit these infinite concepts into my limited understanding of the world. Part of me wanted to stay in this state of divine revelation forever, while another part worried about my parents and wondered if this was all some kind of beautiful dream. The awe I felt was mixed with the innocent curiosity that only children possess. But even as my young mind marveled at these profound truths, I began to sense something troubling, a disconnect between what I was experiencing directly and what I had been taught to expect about divine connection. As I looked deeper into the visions Jesus was sharing, I began to understand something that would haunt me for years to come. These truths about divine love, universal connection, and direct spiritual experience were exactly what Edgar Cayce had been sharing with the world, yet they were often met with skepticism, fear, and outright rejection by traditional religious institutions. I saw how these direct experiences of divine love threatened established religious structures that relied on being intermediaries between people and God. The churches that claimed to represent divine truth were often the very institutions that discouraged people from seeking their own direct spiritual experiences, preferring followers who accepted doctrine without question rather than seekers who might discover their own divine connections. Jesus revealed universal truths that resonated with everything Edgar Cayce had channeled from this same divine source. Love is the fundamental force of creation, connecting every soul across time and space. We are not separate beings struggling alone, but interconnected aspects of one infinite consciousness, each playing our part in the cosmic dance of existence. Picture this. Imagine every person you've ever loved, every stranger who smiled at you, every moment of kindness you witnessed. All connected by invisible threads of light that stretch across the universe. That's what I saw in that divine realm. He showed me that death is not an ending, but a transition, like taking off a heavy coat after a long journey. Our physical bodies are temporary vehicles for eternal souls that continue learning and growing across multiple lifetimes. Every experience, every relationship, every challenge we face is an opportunity for spiritual growth and deeper understanding of divine love. These weren't religious concepts in the traditional sense. They were fundamental truths about the nature of reality itself. The same truths that Edgar Cayce accessed when he entered his trance-like states, receiving information from what he called the universal consciousness. I was experiencing this source directly, understanding why Cayce's readings resonated with so many people seeking authentic spiritual truth. As these cosmic truths settled into my being, Jesus gently shifted the focus from the universal to the deeply personal, showing me not just what exists, but what my specific role would be in sharing these revelations. During this profound encounter, I experienced what I can only describe as a life review, even though I was just 6 years old with limited life experiences to review. Instead, I was shown my soul's purpose and the mission I would carry for the rest of my earthly life. This vision filled me with both excitement and a sense of tremendous responsibility. Jesus revealed that I was meant to share this experience with others, to be a witness to the reality of divine love and the accessibility of spiritual truth. Like Edgar Cayce before me, I was being entrusted with bringing back messages from the divine realm to help others understand their true spiritual nature. The mission felt both enormous and perfectly natural, like something I had always known deep inside. I saw glimpses of my future, moments when I would share this story and help others connect with their own spiritual truth. The overwhelming sense of purpose filled every part of my being, and I understood that this near-death experience wasn't just for me, but for everyone who would hear about it and recognize the divine truth within themselves. What I discovered next broke my heart and opened my eyes at the same time. Picture this. Imagine finding the most beautiful, life-changing truth and then realizing that the very institutions meant to share it were actually hiding it away. Here's something that broke my heart when I realized it years later. Now I understand why churches and traditional religious institutions often remain silent about experiences like mine and Edgar Cayce's readings. But what if I told you that the very institutions claiming to protect spiritual truth are actually preventing you from discovering your own divine nature? Direct spiritual experiences threaten the control that organized religion maintains over spiritual truth. When individuals discover they can communicate directly with divine consciousness, they no longer need intermediaries to reach God. These institutions fear losing their authority when people realize that divine truth is accessible to everyone, not just clergy or religious leaders. Personal revelation undermines dogma, and mystical experiences challenge rigid interpretations of Scripture. The Church's silence isn't about protecting people from false teachings. It's about protecting their own institutional power and relevance. Edgar Cayce faced similar resistance throughout his lifetime, with religious authorities questioning his methods and dismissing his insights, despite the documented healing and guidance his readings provided. The pattern is clear. Authentic spiritual experiences that empower individuals are often discouraged by institutions that prefer compliant followers to empowered seekers. But here's the beautiful truth. Divine love is so powerful that no institution can contain it or keep it from you. Even as this profound sense of purpose filled every part of my being, I began to feel the gentle but unmistakable pull of my physical form, calling me back to complete this earthly mission. And at that moment, I felt the gentle but unmistakable pull back toward my physical body. Jesus communicated that it wasn't yet time for me to remain in this divine realm permanently. My soul had chosen this earthly incarnation for important reasons, and I had work to do in sharing the truth about divine love and spiritual connection. The reluctance I felt was overwhelming. How could I leave this place of perfect love and understanding to return to a world of pain, confusion, and separation? But along with that reluctance came an acceptance of my mission and a deep trust in the divine plan. I knew that carrying this experience back into physical form was part of my soul's purpose. The being of light that I knew as Jesus filled me with strength and courage for the journey ahead. He assured me that I would never truly be separated from this divine love, that it would live within me always, and that sharing this experience would help others remember their own divine nature. The return to my body was like diving into cold water after basking in warm sunshine. Suddenly I was aware again of weight, of breath, of the beeping machines and bright hospital lights. The medical team was celebrating. Vital signs had returned, the crisis had passed, and their young patient had miraculously stabilized. But for me, the real miracle wasn't surviving the medical emergency. It was coming back with memories of divine truth intact, carrying the knowledge that life extends far beyond physical existence, and understanding that love, truly, is the only force that matters. The contrast between the eternal realm I had just experienced and the temporal world I was returning to was jarring, yet I felt an unshakable peace. My parents were crying with relief, holding my small hands and thanking God for saving their daughter. If only they knew that I had been with God, experiencing the very love and presence they were praying to. The irony wasn't lost on me, even at 6 years old, that the divine presence they sought through prayer was the same presence I had just encountered directly. Here's the thing that nobody tells you about coming back from an experience like this. It's like trying to describe the color blue to someone who's been blind their entire life. How do you put infinity into words? In the days and weeks that followed my recovery, what had seemed like an impossible dream began to manifest as undeniable reality. My entire perception of existence had been fundamentally rewired. Coming back from that experience fundamentally changed everything about how I saw myself and the world around me. The spiritual awakening that followed my near-death experience was gradual but profound, like slowly remembering a dream that becomes clearer with time rather than fading away. I found myself knowing things I had never learned, understanding concepts that were far beyond my age, and feeling a connection to something greater than myself that never left me. Colors seemed more vivid, emotions felt deeper, and I could sense things about people that others couldn't see. It was as if my spiritual sensitivity had been permanently activated by my encounter with divine consciousness. I remember the first time this heightened awareness showed up dramatically. I was 7, standing in line at the grocery store with my mum, when I suddenly knew the elderly woman ahead of us was grieving her husband. I walked up to her and said, "Your husband says he's still with you." My mother was mortified, but the woman started crying and hugged me, saying her husband had passed just the week before. It wasn't until years later, when I began seeking answers to understand my transformed consciousness, that I discovered the work of a man whose experiences would validate everything I had lived through. Years later, when I first read about Edgar Cayce's life and work, I was amazed by the similarities in our experiences. Like Cayce after his first psychic reading, I had developed an intuitive understanding of spiritual truth and a deep compassion for others' suffering. We had both been changed by our access to divine consciousness, becoming bridges between the earthly and spiritual realms. The connection to Edgar Cayce's work became even more remarkable as I studied his readings about near-death experiences, soul purposes, and the nature of divine love. The teachings he channeled from the universal consciousness matched exactly what I had learned during my own divine encounter. We had accessed the same source, received the same truths, and been given similar missions to share spiritual wisdom with a world hungry for authentic connection to the divine. Just as Cayce spent his life helping others understand their spiritual nature and healing potential, I realized that my experience was meant to be shared, not kept as a private treasure. The profound moment when I understood that this truth must be shared was like a second awakening, as powerful as the original near-death experience itself. Let me paint you a picture of what this means in your daily life. Every time you feel that unexplained pull to help a stranger, every moment when you look at a sunset and feel connected to something greater, every instance when love feels bigger than just emotion, that's this divine connection breaking through. What my childhood encounter with death revealed to me, and what Edgar Cayce spent his lifetime demonstrating, is that we are all spiritual beings temporarily having human experiences. The divine realm I visited isn't some distant heaven accessible only after death. It's our true home, always available to those who open their hearts to divine love and truth. The universal love that Jesus showed me is the same force that guided Edgar Cayce's healing work and spiritual insights. It's the energy that connects every soul, transcends every barrier, and offers hope to everyone who feels lost or alone in this world. This isn't religious doctrine, it's the fundamental truth about the nature of existence itself. Think about the last time you felt completely unconditionally loved. Maybe by a grandparent, a pet, or in a moment of pure connection with another person. Now multiply that feeling by infinity. That's just a glimpse of what I experienced in that divine realm. When churches remain silent about these experiences, they deny people access to the most transformative truth available, that divine love is immediately accessible to anyone who seeks it with an open heart. You don't need special training, religious authority, or complex rituals. You need only the willingness to experience love beyond your current understanding. The silence of religious institutions about direct spiritual experiences like mine and Edgar Cayce's isn't protecting people from deception. It's preventing them from discovering their own divine nature. Every soul has the capacity for direct spiritual connection, for healing, for accessing the wisdom of divine consciousness. These abilities aren't rare gifts given to a chosen few. They're the natural birthright of every human being. This is exactly what I promised to share with you. The same divine secrets that mystics spend lifetimes seeking, revealed to a 6-year-old in a single transformative moment. The love that saved my life, that guided Cayce's work, that flows through every genuine mystical experience throughout history, is available to you right now. So what does this mean for you, sitting there right now, maybe questioning everything you've been taught about life and death? What does it mean when a 6-year-old girl and a renowned psychic both access the exact same divine realm? What does this mean for you, for humanity, for our understanding of life and death? It means that every moment is an opportunity to choose love over fear, connection over separation, truth over comfortable illusion. The divine realm I experienced as a child exists within reach of every person willing to look beyond the material world for deeper meaning. We are not alone in this universe. We are not separate from each other or from divine source. We are not limited to one lifetime or one understanding of truth. We are eternal beings of light and love, temporarily experiencing physical form for the purpose of spiritual growth and service to others. This is what I learned at 6 years old, what Edgar Cayce channeled throughout his lifetime, and what every authentic spiritual experience throughout history has revealed. The love that saved my life, that guided Cayce's work, that flows through every genuine mystical experience, is available to you right now. Not after death, not through religious intermediaries, not in some distant future, but now, in this moment, as you allow your heart to open to the infinite love that is your true nature. The silence of churches cannot silence the truth of divine love. The skepticism of the world cannot diminish the reality of spiritual connection, and the fear of those who profit from keeping people spiritually dependent cannot prevent the awakening that happens when souls recognize their true divine nature. You now possess the exact same divine secrets that mystics spend lifetimes seeking: the truth about accessible divine love, the reality of spiritual connection beyond death, and proof that churches' silence cannot diminish your direct access to divine consciousness. This isn't just information. It's your spiritual inheritance, revealed to you today. In just these few minutes, you've gone from wondering about life after death to knowing with certainty that divine love is immediately accessible to you. You've transformed from someone who might have doubted direct spiritual experiences to someone who now understands that your own divine connection is not only possible, it's your birthright. Here's what I want you to understand. Sharing this story isn't about building my channel. It's about awakening souls who are ready for this truth. When you share this experience, you're not just spreading a video, you're planting seeds of divine awakening in hearts that are prepared to receive it. If this story opened your mind to new spiritual possibilities, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I have more profound near-death experiences that will continue expanding your understanding of divine consciousness. Second, share this video with someone who needs to hear this truth about accessible divine love. Third, comment below and tell me, what direct experience of divine connection are you ready to receive in your own life? Your answer might be the key that unlocks your spiritual awakening. Love is the only truth that matters. Connection is stronger than separation, and you are far more than you've been taught to believe. This is my gift to you, the truth I was given at 6 years old, the same truth that Edgar Cayce channeled throughout his lifetime. Now it's yours to carry forward.